Are you curious about bodies, pleasure, and possibilities? And what about curious about what others are up to on the planet when it comes to pleasure, sex, and play? Have you considered what pleasure can do for your life, your body, and your bank account? Do you know something magical, delightful, and out of this world orgasmic is not only possible for you, but totally available to you? If you're ready to be the magical, sexual, sexy beast you know you can be, and you just need the tools to get there, you're in the right place. Now, here's the host of The Pleasure Zone, sensual movement artist, relationship and sex alchemist, Milica Jelenic.
Welcome, 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 my sweet, sweet pleasure seekers. Today we're talking about the joy of pleasure. I went kind of on a neutral category for talks tonight to kind of look back on many different topics in a way, and also just kind of go very general with what is joy, what is pleasure. We're always trying to have both of those. Or are we? I don't know. Some people are not. And what is pleasure for everybody is so very different. So we'll be exploring a lot of these things in today's shows. This show is going to be less of a less graphic than I suppose you could say some of my other shows are, with a lot of the shows having some how-to experiences. We will talk about some how-tos of like how to have joy, what is joy, how to have pleasure. And I think all of those are important things to talk about in a time when a lot of people are not experiencing that. In fact, I've actually talked to people who never even considered that their body could receive joy, which that in itself was fascinating to me. What was more fascinating was that one of the people that I posed that question to posed it back to me and asked me if I have joy. And I sat and for a moment, and it just in contemplation, asking my body, body, do you have joy? Do you experience joy? And my body was like, yeah. I'm like, do we actually like live joy? And it was like, yeah, we do. So even in those times when I'm feeling like I want to thrash people or maybe punch somebody in the head, there's even a little joy behind that. Yes, I know that my colleagues out there will say if you're hitting somebody and you're joyful and you're coming from a place of anger, then you need to heal that. Yeah, sure. Cool. There is that. And I don't act on it. It's just a fantasy in my mind. So there you go. It can be a very intense experience. Any of the feelings that we have in our body, and those feelings we have are what is how we describe pleasure in this experience. Pleasure is this thing that is experienced by your body. And it's not just one thing. It is the experience of having your body be awakened. That is the best way I could describe pleasure. After 7 years, that will be my new explanation of pleasure until next week when I come up with another one. Pleasure is the awakening of your body through different senses. So whether you're using smell, touch, taste, hearing, or smell, whatever, I might have missed one, whatever sense you're using, if those senses are awakening your body and your body begins to feel alive, almost orgasmic in its nature, that is actually pleasure. So for those of you who are tapping in right now and you just happened upon our fabulous ICN app and you're like, damn, I'm going to listen in. What is she talking about? Well, who is she? And so I'm Milica Jelenic, and I've been hosting the Pleasure Zone for 7 years now. And in this show, I love talking about different things related to pleasure, bodies, sex, relationships, and all things that will have you enjoy your life just a little bit more. I come at it from a historical point of view, from coaching tools, from energetic tools. I approach it from every facet of everything I've ever learned, and I bring it to you in a combination of, I would say it's like a smorgasbord of all kinds of love and light that I bring to this show. So I hope that gives you somewhat of an idea of what's going on this show. And for those of you who are listening, I am a sex and intimacy coach. So I do work with people work with couples, and I will be working with groups shortly as well when our lockdowns are done in Canada. I'll be having classes in person, and what I really would love to do is facilitate more and more and more groups of people on specialty situations, like things like going beyond abuse, and also having different experiences with your pleasure as well. So like in weekends of heightened awareness of taste, weekends of heightened awareness of sight, all kinds of things to enhance all these pleasure things in our lives. So this is really part of the target for the next short-term future, 1 to 2 years. So just in case you're wondering, what's she doing? What's she creating? And these are all things that I'm in the works of right now. And why would I do that? Well, I love creating communities, and I love being part of a community. And the most fun to me is being part of a community that has a shared interest or target. And one of the shared interests or targets to me is pleasure, and how we derive it from different things, whether it's from, if you have immense pleasure from gardening, then I would love to invite you to come and garden. If you have intense pleasure from painting, then come and paint. So it's to invite you to a space in a community where your things that invite you to pleasure, things that bring you to a sense of pleasure and awakening in your body, are available to you with total space, a space of kindness, a space of love, and offering you to be able to have that with no interference, no interruptions, and just being. So isn't that fun? So today we will dive into the joy of pleasure, first examining a little bit about what is joy, what is pleasure, what is the joy of pleasure, what kinds of things are required in order to have the joy of pleasure, and how do we still utilize these pleasure things in our day-to-day lives so that we're not stuck in thinking that this is only something that occurs in the bedroom with a lover. Pleasure only occurs in the bedroom with a lover. You can have the joy of sex, and then that means that you're having heightened experience with sex. So then maybe that only happens with a lover, right? But see, we've limited it a lot. So I'd like to invite you to have the joy of pleasure. And if I were to expand on that title, it would be the joy of pleasure of having a body, or the joy of pleasure of embodiment. So the joy of pleasure of embodiment is one of those things that, as I feel that energy, like, what is the joy of pleasure of embodiment? It has me look right to the polarized opposite of what is not the joy of pleasure of embodiment. So let's look at that, because sometimes looking at the things that are in contrast, or if you are living in the contrast of what is the joy of pleasure, and if you've only experienced things that are not pleasurable and not joyful, you will know that very well, for you'll know exactly what the opposite is. And maybe you haven't lived it, but you'll know that what you're living is not that, right? So what is not the joy of pleasure? So if you are not in joy and you're not enjoying your life, so INJOY, enjoy, or enjoying, ENJOYING, your life, if you're not in the joy of enjoying your life, you will likely be feeling a daily kind of, life ain't so fun. Lack of motivation to work, get up, to get started, to create, to interact. And even when the world has put us in a position where interaction has become limited for one reason or another, and you still desire it, there are ways, and you can always seek it. You can always seek it through different ways of connecting with people. There's so many rebels on the planet right now who are connecting regardless of what limitations are being placed on them. So just happen to know a few rebels in my life, which have really, that has been a beautiful thing to allow me in my life to have more fun. I love rebels. So if, if you're like, but I can't, what if you were willing to be a little bit of a rebel, to rebel against the doldrum, to rebel against some of the things you've been experiencing that have kept you down, kept you feeling bored and alone? Are you willing to just be like 1% rebel? Oh, no, it's hard. What if you got caught? What if you went to jail? Frig, is it worth it? Maybe. So are you willing to be a rebel? Rebels are usually the ones to me that have the most fun because they are not buying into the limitation and the laws and all the regulations and everything that's telling you what you can't do. So to me, joy is busting free from all of these things that would have you not only be limited, they have you basically shut yourself off. So the opposite of joy would be like a dim lit room where you literally can't see anything. You have no sensations. There's nothing beautiful smelling. Nothing is heightening your awareness. Nothing is heightening your body or your experience. And everything is like being in solitary confinement. And if your life has been feeling like solitary confinement, the question is, if you truly are in solitary confinement and listening to my show, I think, wow, that's interesting. Like, how cool is it that you're allowed to listen to my show in solitary confinement? I doubt that you are. But if you are in what we would say a mindset of solitary confinement, where you feel alone, where you feel like you've been separated from people, where you have not really a sense of connecting to anything, whether it's your work or whether it's people or whether it's nature, and you just don't have a sense of connection to anything, and you feel so totally isolated, it's like being in solitary confinement. That would be the opposite of joy, right? So if somebody were to put you in solitary confinement, they're really not trying to give you a sense of joy, are they? They're trying to punish you. So the opposite of joy, in my estimation, is punishment, whether it's self-punishment or punishment inflicted by an authority. So how do you feel about that? Now, there can be play with that punishment. That is consensual, and that's different. So when we talk about punishment from the sense of having it be consensual through adults who are consensual age of consent, whatever country you're in, it's different in every country. But if you're of the age of consent, you've had a consensual discussion, and you have been put into solitary confinement as a way of play, that is 100% different than being put into solitary confinement by an authority who's telling you that you need to be in solitary confinement to restrict you from having any joy in your life. So to the rebels out there who enjoy a little bit of fun, a little bit of play, who will say to the world, F you, I am not going to let anybody constrain me against my consent. I'm going to go have some fun. I think this show might actually awaken some rebels. It might actually allow people to realize, holy Christ, we've actually been in a whole lot of confinement. We've been in a whole lot of no joy. We've been put into a place to specifically not allow us to have joy. And what if you choose it anyway? People can put you anywhere. And look at Nelson Mandela as an example. For those of you who are too young to know who Nelson Mandela was, look him up. He was an amazing person. And when you read his story of when he was in confinement, he didn't get depressed. He got educated. He had different thoughts. And the people who survive any kind of thing where they've been in confinement or solitary confinement, or whether they've always found something that is a light to keep their mind active and joyful and feel connected, whether it's to God, the goddess, the universe, or other people. It's that connection that can awaken joy, that can have you start to notice that you're part of something bigger than just this something that feels solitary, right? So part of what we're going to work with today, what is the joy of pleasure? What is the joy of pleasure? Why do we desire that? Like, what is it about human beings that has us feel like if I'm having joy and I'm having pleasure, life's worth living. And if I don't have joy and I don't have pleasure, I would rather die. Now, hands up to everybody out there who feels like, you know what, when I'm not feeling joy and pleasure, I'd rather off myself and not be on this planet. Now, what do joy and pleasure do? They actually bring in these different amazing hormones through our bodies that give us a sense of love, connection, pleasure, and to have that makes life worth living, doesn't it? And to not have that makes it seem like, why bother, right? So, and I know I'm talking to a lot of people out there right now who are totally feeling it. They're totally like, why bother? I can't tell you how many people I've met who are struggling in business in the last few months, who are struggling in relationships, who are struggling with themselves, who are struggling with their bodies, and everything is bringing them down. Now, if you're a rebel, you'll just go, screw that. I'm having it. I'm having joy, even if I have to, no matter what. I'm just having joy no matter what. Nobody's going to stop me. So it takes a warrior to choose joy. It takes a warrior. So are you warrior enough to step up and go, F this, I'm choosing joy? So I dare you. And I dare you to think about that during commercial. Am I warrior enough to step up and say, joy, I'm having it? It's like conquering a new territory. And I'm going to be like Alexander the Great and place my name on everything that I have like ever desired in my life, that I've wanted to conquer. I'm like Alexander the Great, putting my name on everything that I've ever desired and owning it. I'm going to have it. I'm going to have that joy. And if you're not feeling it, look at the places that you're not feeling it and try to claim it. Be that warrior who goes in and tries to claim it. Not that I'm condoning anything like colonialism or warfare like that, but there is a warrior spirit that can come in, and there is a different approach to being a warrior now than there was 2,300 years ago when Alexander the Great was doing all of his conquests. So we will look at more fun things after this next commercial. So you're listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is The Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@milicajelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet, sweet pleasure seekers. I'm so glad you're sticking around for this crazy rant today. It's sometimes fun to go on a crazy rant, especially just before the show. I was talking to one of my dear friends. She's also my producer tonight. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what I just did to myself by giving myself this title for the show, because I don't know, it's so vague. It's so vague. What do I say? And then the energy moves. And sometimes when that energy moves, wholly lifted, it's like channeling Jesus. So it can be kind of fun and intense, and like my body is on fire. It's so fun. I was thinking about, like, on break, what is joy? And like, what is joy? Even as a word, when we look at the etymology of joy, I didn't actually look it up, and I'm not going to, because I wanted to tap into the etymology of joy And it felt very much like as if it came from a Latin base or a French based word like joie de vivre. And it feels very much like that word joie. When it translates in English, if you look up like English French translations, it probably does say joy or comma happiness. And what I feel about that is that happiness is like, if we had octaves of things in the world, I feel like happiness is like this one octave and joy is this higher elevation octave. Not that one is better or different in the symphony of life. We need all of these octaves. They're what creates this beautiful, these beautiful nuances that we experience. So, you know, to translate that word joy, I think is one of those words where it's such an energetic experience to know what joy is, that it's like somebody invented it out of some kind of resonance. Like, this is the resonance of joy. And they just put these sounds together. And then I thought, well, if that's the case, then that's the case with all words, that all words came together with the resonance of different nuances of energies, and somebody just slapped them together. Because I invent words all the time that I think better match the things that I'm talking about than what maybe is the cultural norm to call things. So, for example, I change my daughter's name like every day because her personality could be different in that moment, and her name changes according to the energy of who she's being in that moment, and she knows that. And I think she loves it because I created a book for her for Christmas about all the names of Ziva, and it's a never-ending book because the names change all the time. And I rarely call her by her actual name because it doesn't always fit her. It fit her in that moment after she was born, and I looked at her face and it went, Ziva, which for anybody who knows Hebrew knows that translates to splendor or splendid. And for anybody who comes from a Slavic background would probably call it Jiva, which means life or the goddess of life. So yes, in that moment, her name was Ziva, and now she's all kinds of names. So for me, when we look at the energy of words like the word joy, it could actually change for you in any split second moment. Like what is joy for you today may be different than joy for you tomorrow. So try not to hold on tightly to the definitions of these things, even though, yes, we have etymologies of word, we have all these things we can look back on to look at what do they mean. What does it mean to you is what's important, more important than anything. And what does it mean to you in this moment, which is different than what it will mean to you in another moment. And you may change that word around as well. It may translate it into another language and it resonates more with you. So play with it. Play with what is joy. And now, just for fun, for those of you who have or you enjoy kind of like meditations or tapping into your body, I'm going to take you through like a little 5-minute, could be more, I'm not really sure because this is all spontaneous, like kind of meditation for joy. So if you're driving, turn this off because I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. If you're not driving and you are sitting and listening and you can be present with this, that's great. Otherwise, you can always come back to this segment of the show later. It's at around the 23-minute mark, so 24-minute mark. So let's play with this, all right, friends? And sweet pleasure seekers. All right, everybody, I want you to just know you have a body. Hi, body. We're just going to talk to that sweet body of yours. So for all the bodies listening now, I just want you to check in and check and see if you have joy in the soles of your feet. And just ask. Try not to get heady about it. And if you notice you're getting heady, just put your hands on your legs or on your tummy or under your bum and connect with your body. Hey, I have joy in my feet. And you might notice it feels light or it feels heavy. If it feels light, yeah, sweet. And if it doesn't feel light, ask your body to know and resonate the energy of joy that you can receive right now. Hey, bodies. Sweet. So I'm going to ask you right now to receive what is the energy of joy in the soles of your feet. What is the energy of joy as we move up? I want you to check in with all your body as we move from the soles of your feet to the top of your head, checking in if any of these areas know what joy is. Have they experienced joy in the last day, month, week, year, lifetime? Has it been lifetimes? Yeah, so let's go, body. From the soles of your feet, what is joy? Do you know joy? Are you experiencing joy? And if you're not, let's bring it in. Let's ask for the earth to contribute to bring joy in, bringing it in from everywhere in nature, bringing it in from people that you acknowledge as joyful. And then we're going to ask for more energy to come on in and move up your legs. And as it moves incrementally, just notice the places and spaces where there is joy and where there isn't joy. And it's filling up. It's filling up, going up, kind of like a vacuum pressure cooker. It's moving up from the, bubbling from the bottom of your feet and moving up through your legs. Where's the joy? Let's fill those spaces. Finding it through all your joints, through all your muscles, through every single part of your anatomy, whether you know anatomy or not. Just know it's all these areas and all the depths right down and right out through all your energetic bodies is their joy. Moving it up into your knees, and then is there joy? Maybe there isn't. Let's ask there to be joy in those areas. And if you're feeling a little bit hot and excited, energy may be moving, maybe running, and just keep on letting yourself receive that. Now let's ask that joy that can be so unfamiliar and so strange and so awkward and something that we really don't know how to have in our lives. How do we fill ourselves past our kneecaps for joy? We just ask, and we let the energy move up. As we take deep breaths in and deep breaths out, you'll notice that the joy will just start to rise, and it'll move. And it'll move through your sides, into your hips, into your genitals, into all of right up into your abdomen. Wherever there isn't joy internally, ask there to be joy. Your body thrives on joy. It's one of the greatest mineral vitamins you can give your body, joy. What is it? Why is it so elusive in body? Can you just receive it? Yeah. So just let that move up all the way through your abdomen, through your rib cage, through your heart center, chakra area, physical heart, lungs, all of that. Breasts moving up into your subclavicular, clavicular, up into your neck, your shoulders, and all of your arms. And we're just going to let joy rise, and just let it rise, and just let your body know that it can light up with joy. It can emanate joy. It can be delighted by joy. It can be an invitation to joy. And you have a choice. You can also choose not to have joy. You're going to let that joy rise and rise and rise all the way up through your neck, through your jaw, through your gums and your teeth and your palate and your sinuses, your nostrils, your eyes, your eyebrows, your forehead, your third eye, all of that, your cranium, everything, all of it, let it rise. Joy. If you're experiencing any discomfort in your body, just ask it if it's willing to have joy there. And if it's not, just like be okay with that. It's like, cool. So there's a spot that needs to be addressed. And be allowed to be an allowance of not having joy in that spot. Yeah. So if your body is like no to all joy everywhere, that's okay too. Joy is a choice. Yeah. That's kind of a delicious energy to play with. I wonder how your bodies are doing. How's your body feeling? Do you notice that your soles of your feet are maybe feeling a little different, a little warmer, a little more awake? Does your body feel awake? Do you have a different sense of anything? And I invite you that if you are sitting down, can you just get up and integrate your body? So we'll do that during this commercial. So when you, so we're going to head to a commercial break. And when we do, I invite you guys to just take a little break for a minute and walk around and come back to this and listen to the rest of the show. When your body is integrated joy, do some movement, do some stretching, maybe go masturbate and just come on back. You're listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Interested in masturbating for money, copulating for consciousness, and pleasuring on purpose? 21 Days of Sexual Magicism with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic is an exploration of tools, processes, and actions that you can use to create more for your life, your body, your money inflows, and so much more. Graduated learning for all levels of interest. Learn at your own pace via video classes or join the yearly live class. Take a peek at www.milicajelenic.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is The Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@milicajelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet, sweet pleasure seekers. So, how are your bodies? How are your bodies after you just invited your body to pull in energy of joy everywhere, into every single molecule of your physical body and all of your energetic bodies, and then integrating it through movement? How are you feeling? You feeling pretty good? You feeling kind of weird? You feeling like this is a totally different reality? Yep, it could be. If you are like totally confused by this and feeling like a ton of resistance to joy, I really would just like you to be okay with that. Just like, okay, so for today, I'm not feeling joy. Not make yourself wrong for it, not make me wrong for it, not make the world wrong for it. It's just for today. It's just for this moment. It might be different in an hour where your body is saying yes to joy, yes to all of that, yes to receiving joy and pleasure. What the heck is this thing, pleasure? How do you have the joy of pleasure? So we have pleasure. It's all these ways that our bodies get to have experiences that awaken them through sensory touch and all these different sensorial experiences, right? So that is pretty much how we experience pleasure on this planet. we experience pleasure and sort of satisfaction. We often term them together because pleasure and satisfaction are often things that we think are the same. Satisfaction is when you're satisfied with something, you're saying, job well done, it was good enough. When you have pleasure, you're experiencing your senses and you're experiencing something heightened that's awakening you. Now, when you have the joy of pleasure, it means that you actually enjoy receiving pleasure in whatever form that is to you, right? So everybody's pleasure triggers are going to be different. Now, some people like spanking, some people don't. If you have it as a pleasure and then you have joy in receiving it or gifting it, that makes it even more interesting. Joy is like this energy that it's kind of like adding a finely cultured, finely curated, drink to your dinner, to your 12-course dinner, and then somebody gives you this spectacular thing that adds nuances to everything that is this bouquet of dinner, this banquet that you're experiencing with different sensory experiences. And then they say, we're going to give you this energy. We're going to give you the top champagne of the world. And every course that you have is going to have a different top drink of the world that goes with it. Not to intoxicate you, but to elevate your experience, to be able to have you have everything that you're having pleasure with just a little more heightened. Although technically, yes, alcohol is a depressant, so it doesn't do that, but you get my drift, right? So we're adding this energy behind our choices for pleasure. Now, you can give somebody pleasure because they can give you details on how to stimulate them. And they're like, rub my clit this way now. And then, they do, and it works. Now, if they added joy to that, when they add joy to it, what does that show you? What do you experience? You imagine when you look at your lover's face and they are totally enthralled and totally in joy when they're giving you oral sex, when they are having any kind of play with you. But I like oral sex and looking at a partner's face with oral sex because it's lovely. You can really grasp whether there's joy behind it or not, and whether there's like, oh my God, this is a chore. And there's something that joy adds to it that is like the world's finest spice or the world's finest liqueur or wine that makes your body go, thank you. Thank you for being in joy with me. Thank you for being in joy with my body. And thank you for being in joy to receive whatever it is the play is going on, right? So joy is that nuance and joy is that energy, which is why I was asking you before the last commercial break to run joy through your body. What is that like? Because if you've never experienced it, then how on earth are you going to translate that to your lover when you play with them? How on earth can you be in somebody's presence and let them know how much you totally enjoy their companionship, whether it's a friend or whether it's family or whether it's your lover? It doesn't matter. You can be in the joy of all relationships. It doesn't have to equal sex, and you can be in the joy of the pleasure of their presence, and it doesn't have to equal sex. So although a lot of people confuse them, yes, they do. So pleasure, you can have pleasure. Look at children who run around in the grass or jump and play and go swimming, and they're just totally enthralled by the moment and what their body is feeling. That's pleasure. Pleasure and play and all of that. That's all of that together. And we often misidentify pleasure so badly that we limit the crap out of it. So if you really want to limit yourself, make pleasure something incredibly small and grown up. If you really want to expand pleasure, you need to learn to play again, and you need to learn to be able to be totally creative, spontaneous, and open to anything, even if it's ridiculous. Yeah, so pleasure does not come from things that are defined always. It does not come from things that are rigid always. They can, but it's not limited to that. And joy is that nuance of energy that adds the heightened, this energy behind it that just allows you to go, wow. It's like adding sparkles to something, and you're just like, wow, that just shines more. It's like when you put on jewelry and then you just sparkle more, or all these things where we know how to enhance ourselves. You know, you can do things like wear makeup or do your hair up, becoming a seductress with whatever you're doing. Those things can also enhance the experience as well. And if you add the energy of joy to whatever you're doing, whew, it gets hot, it gets sexy, it gets pretty awesome. So whatever you feel miserable about right now, if you feel miserable about anything, and I was just having some thoughts about things that are like frustrations rising, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to add joy to those frustrations rising. And it's like actually Regina, who wrote Pussy a Reclamation, talks about taking your anger and swamping it. So you dance it out and you change it to empower it, to turn it into a power, kind of your power and potency comes out of the anger. And this is what I'm asking as well, is that you can take this, we can switch it energetically if you're not into swamping and dancing your heart out. But I do encourage you to use movement after asking your body to run any kind of energy for healing, because your body would like to be able to integrate it. So using any kind of movement, whether you're walking backwards, whether you're doing a little dance, whether you are just stretching, integrate, let your body integrate it. It'll be so much happier. So it's really funny because I was kind of like, so what am I going to talk about today? And it was great because Christine is always such a great contribution to shows. So if you are looking to have a show with us on the network, you're going to be fully supported, people. Trust me. After 7 years, I know what it's like to be totally supported. And if you're like, I don't think I can do it, you've got a team that will back you so that you are feeling supported even when you're like, what did I just think of? They will coach you and trigger you in an intensive way to get you sparked. So just know that, right? So I'm just saying that. Sometimes I spontaneously say things and it's true. So sometimes we need sparks, right? Like we need something that actually sparks us. We might have an idea and then we need something that lights that trigger under our butt, and that sometimes that energy is joy. Sometimes it's other people's joy, because joy is like infectious. Let's turn COVID into joy. Like, let's just do it because we can, because we're magic, because why not, right? If we just turn all this trauma, drama, and all this stuff that's going on in the planet into joy and pleasure, or the joy of pleasure, what could we create? We could create some effing magic, rebellious wonders of the world who would choose that over despair and sadness. What could we create? We could create something awesome. So could and can, and just choose it. So I offer my energy to contribute to any of you choosing that. If you want to tap into me, if you want to collaborate to create joy, just contact me and we can do a collaboration of what do we do to create joy, whether it's an afternoon chat, whether it's a little gathering, whether it's a big gathering, whether it's a change the effing world gathering, whatever, let me know. I'm so in. One of the things that I've been reading about lately, my latest read is The Art of Seduction. I love this book. I'm only a few chapters in, and I highly recommend it to anybody who's actually trying to know more about themselves and how they bring pleasure to the world. It doesn't seem that way at first, because you would read the title and you would think, this is all about just seducing people, but it's actually not. It's about knowing who you are and how you connect with people. It's not for people who don't like self-help books or are not looking to change. So don't read it if you're not looking to create change in your life. But if you are looking to create change, I highly recommend The Art of Seduction. I'm actually going to be creating a book club for it. I almost put it out there today, and I didn't put it out there yet. So it's July 19th of 2021. In case you're listening to this in the future and you're like, where's the book club? Well, you can always contact me. I can always recreate book clubs on the fly. So I am actually looking to create one, and I would like to keep it to under 100 people. So that would be a lot of fun and a lot of cool things I'm so aware are going to come out of that. So that brings me joy. Actually, I brought that up because there are things that will bring you joy and there are things that don't bring you joy. And this week I had a very cool insight from my daughter, who was like, yeah, I still like Star Trek, but it's not really like the thing for me right now. And I was like, yeah, I get that. And there are things that light her up. And I like watching how she transitions from thing to thing with like, yeah, well, that was yesterday, today's different, and I'm just going to be into something new. And there's no need to hold on to the old, which I think so many of us have been trained into. You got into something, you should stick with it, you should maintain, because you have all this. But if it's not bringing you joy, what the heck? You can always tap into that book too by Marie Kondo, who, takes you through your home and does this bring you joy? We have somebody like a Marie Kondo, but in a totally unique aspect. So her name is Lisa Bennett, and she has a show on Inspired Choices Network as well. And her facilitation of homes and houses and spaces is phenomenal. And I think it's actually taking Marie Kondo type stuff to another level. She was doing it before Marie Kondo was doing it. So good times. So we're heading to our next commercial break. You're listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. This is the Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@MilicaJelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet, sweet pleasure seekers. We're talking about the joy of pleasure. Such a vague topic, and yet there's so much to it, right? Because what our bodies experience pleasure, they experience joy. And it's just such a fun thing. Why? We're not really born into this world thinking, I'm going to just have this miserable time. That's not really like our target. You look at, I know I like to bring babies up a lot on here, but if you look at babies and you kind of tap into their minds, most babies, I'm just going to say most because I haven't met a baby yet that hasn't had this, but most babies have a wonder about them, have a curiosity, and are all about experiencing everything. Watch a kid crawl, watch a kid stick their finger in a light socket. They want to experience it all with no point of view. They are in the joy of pleasure. They know it. If we could just learn from them, that would be awesome. They can teach us so much about life. And in fact, they teach so much about everything, including movement. And babies are geniuses. So that is my fun rant about babies for today. I tend to like to really watch a lot about babies in the world. I love watching babies on Instagram dancing their little hearts out. It's just the best. So what I really would like to get through today with you guys is between what is joy, what is the joy of pleasure. We kind of discussed that. What is required to have the joy of pleasure is the willingness to receive it. That's really freaking simple, right? Is that almost too simple? It is almost too simple. So let's complicate it. You're probably not willing to receive joy or pleasure, correct? Probably not. So let's complicate it and figure out how to do that. First, what is joy to me? Now, I'd like you to go write a dissertation on that and then come back to me and let me know. And then what is pleasure? and then go write a dissertation on that and come back to me. So now that's probably the most complicated we can get with this. So if we do want to simplify it about having the joy of pleasure in our lives, it's having the awareness and the diligence to be asking for it on a regular basis, to be inviting it into your life as something that is as if it's a vitamin or a mineral that you require. We often think about things like nutrition, that we need food, like we need this food to survive, and we need water to survive, and we need to, defecate, and we need to urinate. We need to do these things for survival, and we need to sleep. But we've forgotten a really huge, huge element of we also require joy and pleasure. We require it. It is essential to life. Why? Because remember at the beginning of the show, we were talking about when we don't have that, and it's like being in solitary confinement, completely locked up and feeling like there's no possibilities at all in the world, and there's and like you can't get anywhere, you can't do anything, right? If you feel like that is, what's going on, then we gotta switch that. So on the daily basis, it's to remember that joy and the joy of pleasure is like a vitamin, and looking at it as, so today I wake up and I go to the bathroom and I brush my teeth and I ask my body if it requires any food or drink or whatever. I go through my consciousness work of looking after my body. Oh, wait, stop. Did I ask my body if it would like to have joy? Would it like to have the joy of embodiment today? Would it like to have the pleasure of embodiment today? Would it like to have the joy of pleasure? Wait, no, that right there, vitamins, delightful vitamins that are totally required. And then if it says, hell yeah, go and be adventurous, explore, like we were talking about earlier. Go explore and conquer these things that you, like a warrior, need to conquer. If there are things on your list that you feel like you need to conquer, go conquer them and place claim to them, put your name on them and own them. Like, part of my work in the world was that I felt shy talking to people, and part of the things that I wanted to, quote, conquer was to be able to talk publicly. And after 7 years, I think I can do it. I think I'm doing it, guys. So I placed my name on it. Literally placed my name on the show, The Pleasure Zone, conquering that one. What are some other things that you think, as a warrior, you would like to go in and conquer? You're like, got to bring up my warrior. And a warrior doesn't always have to slay things. It can go in, and if you've ever read The Art of War, you just have to know your enemy and know yourself, and then you can just get in. And if your enemy is fear, know your enemy and know yourself. And if you know fear, you can take a detour around fear and find another way, right? So many great things showing up in the world, and I encourage you to invite more and more of the joy of pleasure into your life by just asking and exploring, what is this? How much fun could I have having this joy of pleasure? And I know it's foreign because so many people I've been speaking with are like, joy, what are you talking about? It's such a lovely word that's in Christmas carols, but can it be? Like, can I have that? That's just a Christmas carol. Joy to the world. It's just a Christmas carol song, and I don't know what that is. No, we actually don't really, do we? So, it's a beautiful thing to know that we are living in a time where even if we are being confined by, regulations and blah, 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 we can rebel the crap out of that and choose joy anyway. Just keep, be the pleasure seeker, be the seeker of joy, be all of that. And ask for it. It's the vitamins of your life. You need it. You require it for survival. You know me and my shows, and every once in a while I have extra shows up for the month, and every once in a while I just wait for the universe to knock me in the pineal gland. And so for next week, I don't know what the show is, but I'm sure it'll be something fun and great as we're celebrating the month of the 7 years celebration of The Pleasure Zone. And I don't even know how many, 300 and something episodes.
Thank you for listening to The Pleasure Zone with sensual movement artist Milica Jelenic. The Pleasure Zone returns next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by choosing to be turned on and tuned in to your body.